I'm going to introduce Chris Santiago, who, if you've seen any of our videos that we've been putting out lately, you will have heard Chris Santiago, who is by day the Vice President of Solutions Engineering at Unravel Data, but at night is a DJ, musician, and very successful music producer. So really excited to introduce Chris. So Chris, take it away.
Thanks, Keith. And that was not on the script, but thank you, folks. For those who don't know me, my name is Chris Santiago. Thanks again, Keith, for introducing me. I'm Global Vice President of Solutions Engineering. I've had the pleasure of working with customers around the world, solving some of their biggest big data woes and issues. And what I'd like to do in this part of the talk is really focus in on some of you customers where maybe you're a power user, or maybe you've been an Unravel customer for some time. And so you're familiar with our recommendations engine, you're familiar with the out-of-the-box reports, and you may be asking yourselves, well, what else can I do with Unravel to really unlock the value? And so that's what we're here for today. And so what I'm going to do here is actually walk you through an example playbook for success, really. And it's really here for you to really unlock value quickly for your organization. So let's get those first wins, or let's get some newer wins for customers that have been with the Unravel journey for some time now. This playbook is also based on best practices from other peers, right? So, what has worked with other customers, what has made them successful. I'd like to share a playbook for you. And last but not least, we want to make sure that you are getting the most out of your Unravel investment. So you feel confident that you're getting, the value that you were expecting that Unravel is going to drive. The way that we're going to do this is going to be very similar to Kunal's slide in terms of FinOps. And this, in fact, will be a FinOps focused use case where the approach is going to first start off just from a reporting and observability standpoint, right? So we can visualize where spend is going, track as well as allocate. From there, we're going to use Unravel's AI recommendations engine to really help understand, hey, what is the next actionable step? But let's do this in a way that's going to be very impactful, right? So let's take all the data that Unravel has collected and let's see which insights and recommendations are going to be most impactful. And then last but not least, once we have a good understanding of that, let's help prevent issues by setting up guardrails and automation. So that way we can ultimately take control of what's going on from a FinOps standpoint. And so what I'm going to do here next is I'm going to go ahead and break into an actual demo. And so we will actually start off here from within the Unravel interface. And so what you see here is this Insights Overview page here. This is actually marked as a preview. So it's very possible that this might not be enabled in your environment, but this is actually something that we can do today. And really this Insights Overview from that reporting standpoint is really to start showing things at a 10,000 foot view in terms of cost, in terms of resource efficiency, or if we want to improve performance. For today's playbook, we're going to focus in from a cost standpoint. And so let's understand where our cost is going. This is a Databricks environment, but we do have Insights Overview dashboards for all of the environments that we support. And from within Databricks, we can start seeing things in terms of where my spend is going across clusters. I can also identify things in terms of where my spend is going by my top groups or maybe my top clusters. If we were to look at the instance type recommendations, so think of this as infrastructure level recommendations, things that Unravel has identified for improvement. So if we're trying to improve things for cost, we can actually see, how many clusters and what that estimated savings would be. This is just my playground environment. So, we definitely don't have the scale of, the bulk of our customers, but typically I see this number to be in the tens of thousands or if not hundreds of thousands, week over week, month over month for our customers. So again, when we want to start tackling things from a cost standpoint, this is a good report that is actually out of the box. But let's just say we are looking for additional options from within Unravel itself. And what I'd like to do is actually introduce a reporting suite that we have in Unravel today. It is a beta product, but it's just a simple installation in order for this to get set up in your guys' environment. And really what this does is it's a reporting suite that sits on the Unravel node, and it allows us to create or to provide reports from a more agile fashion. And so our customer success team has created a lot of these reports for various customers, but these reports aren't meant for a specific customer. It's really just reporting against the data that Unravel captures. And so we can start doing some meaningful reports, right? Just as a heads up, we are moving towards this App Store concept where we'll be able to actually bring this into Unravel itself. So this is something that this reporting suite will be replaced, but you guys can actually start running this today, right? So starting again at that reporting standpoint, and in this playbook, we're talking about FinOps. So you might be thinking about, okay, well, where can I get more information about the clusters which are the most spent in this particular Databricks environment? And so the way that I would normally do this is I would go ahead and select new here. And if I click on this report type over here, you can actually see we've got various number of reports here. Things that could be EMR related for folks that are running Hadoop. We can look at things in terms of Hadoop specific reports. If you are looking to migrate to the cloud, for some of our customers that have already started their journey with us, they may be familiar with some of these reports that you see here. We're going to focus our efforts on Databricks and cost specifically. And so I would go ahead and select any type of report that I want. I would fill in the parameters here in terms of scheduling, how far back I want to go. I can filter down by user, workspace, et cetera, and so forth. And then I can run the report. I did run the report ahead of time just to save some time. And so here I opened up this Databricks cluster-wide report cost report. And we can see some information here about all the information that Unravel has collected, in this case, in this Databricks environment. Things such as the user, the workspace that they're in. We can even connect into example jobs or Spark apps. So if I go ahead and click on that Spark app here, you can see it actually takes me into the Unravel interface. So this looks very familiar for folks. That's because we're just reading from the same data source, right? But most importantly, if I wanted to solve for cost, maybe my first thing would be just to understand who the users are, which workspace, how much is cost in my particular environment. So from that reporting standpoint, I can start understanding, okay, where should I start? Where's my plan of attack here? In this case, it looks like this particular workspace, this user, maybe a good place to start, because this is where I'm seeing a lot of top spend. I'm going to go back into the reporting suite here. And now in the flywheel, the next component is this self-service insights. Now, again, you're probably familiar with the insights and recommendations from Unravel, but how can we actually do something better? How can we actually look at all of the jobs that are happening in my environment and actually start applying some recommendations? And so for that, I'm going to go ahead and showcase this interesting apps report here. It's focused in on Databricks in this particular case. So let's go ahead and look at this particular report here. In this report, we can start seeing what Unravel has deemed as interesting. So things that there are some really good recommendations to really start looking at, right? So right now I'm thinking of, the customers on this call that may have tens of thousands of jobs, or maybe even sometimes hundreds of thousands of jobs or more per day, right? And so the expectation of trying to do all of the recommendations, that could be a pretty daunting task. But if we pull up this interesting apps report, we can actually look at things such as, in this case, Spark jobs, which would be useful for us to start paying attention to. And so here we've got essentially just an aggregation of all the insights and recommendations, but think of this as that playbook of these are the things we should actually start looking at now to make impactful results across the organization. And again, we can see various information about the jobs, right? In terms of the user again, the title, the description. Here's the recommendations. So if I'm looking for that prescriptive next action here, I can go ahead and apply this as well as additional information. So you as an organization now can start looking at the top spend or the recommendations that are going to give you the biggest bang for your buck ahead of time. So we can be very resourceful with the time that our teams are spending on applying these recommendations. So last but not least, I'm actually going to go back into the Unravel interface here. And the last point that I wanted to cover here is the automation and guardrails. This is a newer feature, so you may or may not have deployed this in your environment today. But what this budget feature does is we can essentially apply guardrails to the organization. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say, here is my engineering budget. I'll just make one up here. I can go ahead and apply a description if I wanted to. I can also set things in terms of what we're going to track. So in this particular case, we'll look at DBUs, and we'll also look at the period. And we're going to be doing this monthly. We can start our start date and end date. And here's where things get interesting. So as I was going through that exercise, those reports were connected into this environment. I did notice that there was a common theme, and the theme was that there was a particular user that was consuming a lot of resources. And what I can actually do here is I can define the scope. I can do things such as, I did that quick. I can do things such as like tags. So whether this is AWS or Azure or Google, we can bring in those tagging structures. So you don't have to recreate the wheel from that standpoint. I'm going to go ahead and go select users here. It's going to pull up all the users that are in my environment here. I'm actually going to go ahead and select that one user I kept on seeing in those reports because I know that there was a lot of spend going on over there. I can see that last month's, in this case, the DBU number here was about 1908. I'm going to have a conversation with this particular engineer, and I'm going to expect him to go under budget this month. So I'm going to set it up for 1600 instead of what was last month, which was 1900. Once I actually click save here, it does a number of things here. It's going to add this row here where you can see this engineering budget. You can see all the parameters I've defined here. You can see the scope. So it's on this particular user itself. And then you start seeing colors, right? What you're seeing here is today, this particular user had spent about 696 DBUs. If you recall, I did set that 1600 DBU budget. And so we're about 44% of the way of our budget until the end of the month. Because it's green, it's because of this. We could see that there's some projection going on here. And it's saying that at the end of the month, in this case, New Year's Eve, December 31st, based on how this particular user is spending resources, he should come in at about 1,584. So he maybe already be applying some of these recommendations already today, or maybe it was less consumption than the previous month. But we can actually start getting proactive about when budgets may or may not be blown. As another example, if I go down to this finance budget here, this is not necessarily the case. We can see here that we have a cost of 716 today, but their budget is 1,500. And the reason why it's yellow is because the way that the finance team is consuming DBU resources, they're expected to hit about 1,851, which is greater than the 1,500 that I've spent, right? And so again, this is powerful, right? If we are a finance organization, or maybe I really do care about costs and I'm trying to solve for being optimal with my costs, I can now see that the way that things are going right now, I am going to blow my budget. And so what do we do next? Well, let's start that whole cycle again. I go ahead and click on optimize. This brings me back into the clusters that have that were flagged to be finance. and then I can go ahead and run those reports over again. So that way I can solve it and continue iterating until I get to a point where I feel good that I have my costs are contained and my users are using resources in a resourceful fashion.
Chris, that was terrific. So first of all, it was a great overview of the reports, the beta reports tools. And of course, the question is, how do I get access to those reports?
Great question. And I think this is going to be a recurring answer here, but work with your customer success team. They have the ability to do this. Keep in mind, again, like I had mentioned in the presentation, these are beta reports. So, we are looking to move these reports into a bit more official capacity from within Unravel later this new year. But yes, feel free to use them today. Again, they've provided tremendous value from other customers. So there's no reason why, our current customers that don't have access to it can run it today.
Awesome. Next question. Can I compare reports for different environments? Example, on-prem versus cloud or dev versus prod?
That's a very good question. And it's actually something that our customers are using our reports today. Out of the plethora of reports that you saw when I opened up the new button, there were pipeline-specific reports and job-specific reports where you can compare things in terms of like, this is how a particular job or pipeline had run in my development environment. And let me compare that to production. We've also seen this for some of our migration customers. And so when customers are working throughout the migration journey, when they are choosing whatever their target state may be, whether that's something like a Databricks or maybe even a Snowflake or maybe EMR, whatever it may be, there's always an expectation that the pipelines that we are migrating over are going to at least meet or maybe even go faster than what today's SLAs are. And so that we have a specific report for that to actually do a comparison between either jobs or pipelines to ensure that, hey, we are actually meeting the SLAs in this new environment. So it does provide that true apples to apples comparison. So whether you're doing that development environment or whether you're migrating today, that's a very powerful use case that these reports absolutely handle.
Awesome. And then last question, Chris, how does report security work? Can we limit who has access to certain reports?
Great question. So right now, those reports that I had shown, the Unity 1 reports, those are more admin platform level. Now we do have the ability to secure those reports if needed, but I would also, if security is top of mind, that would be something that we will be baking into the App Store, which is going to be the future state of these reports. So yes, we do have the ability, but like I said, typically the reports are more platform oriented, so we can limit it to the platform admins. But the more robust security will be coming once we actually deploy that in our App Store later this next year.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. If anyone has any other questions for Chris, please just submit them and we'll have him contact you offline. So thank you again, Chris.
Great. Thanks, Keith. Thanks, folks.